remaining 24% the contiguous municipalities. So it's bringing it back. It's giving the people who have to deal with the Marcellus Shale issues the ability and the decisions to make and to put that money where it's necessary. And the governor's proposal has left it pretty much open, everything from water, sewage, bridges, court system, law enforcement, and all. Now the weakness is there has to be some kind of uniformity where this legislation applies to, and it has to make sure that it's applied equally throughout the Commonwealth and where it's being impacted. Thank you.
Thank you. Harlan Schober.
Thank you. I've lived the last 3 years with Marcellus Shale in Peters Township. We have 57 wells, 11 sites in the Mark West plant, 3 compressor stations. I've been talking a lot about Marcellus Shale everywhere I go lately because that's what everybody's asking for. Let me say the strengths of the governor's proposal, and as Larry said, that's just a proposal. Once the legislature gets a hold of it, it might change, but that's the proposal. What it is doing, it's bringing the fact out, it's got past the governor's stalemate that says, I will not tax gas. The impact fee is definitely something that's going to bring money, but be careful of one thing. Sometimes you watch what you ask for. I do not care for the impact fee. I would rather see a severance tax. As a supervisor in Chartiers Township and others that I've talked to, I want money to come in for the next 50 years. You know, we're going to be dealing with roads, we're going to be dealing with issues as long as the gas production is going on. And an impact fee is only going to be the first 10 years, people. That's a short term, and it's past maybe my life, but it's short term. So therefore, you're going to have the next 40 to 50 years dealing with what's going to happen. These roads are going in now are going to be tore up in 10 years. Townships are going to have, municipalities are going to have to fix them. So I'm glad to see something happening. It'll get turned around, but let's think about the long term. I want money to come in to help our communities on a local level throughout the time.
Thank you. Diana Irene Vaughn.
The impact fee is a start, but we do need to make sure that we're doing something that brings money in for the long term. Just because one municipality has drilling in its community doesn't mean that the other municipalities are not affected. So the money is going to have to be spread out. We did some figures to see what would have happened. There were in 2010, 1,195 permits issued. So far, in 2011, we've had 906 permits issued. That would have resulted in fees divided between the state and municipalities and the county, $47.8 million already. 47.8. We're talking about a lot of money, but we know that the money's got to have to be there for years to come because we're going to see the impact of this for years to come. I think it's a start. I don't think it's going to solve all the problems to just have an impact fee. I would rather see something that would be multi-tiered. But it is what it is at this point. We'll just wait to see if the legislature enacts everything that has been proposed, and if we sort out if we're talking about wells or pads and the impact that will have.
Thank you. Bill Northrup.
Yeah, I think the pros of the impact fee are pretty obvious to all, that they bring money into the county and municipalities, neighboring municipalities. That's a positive for a lot of communities struggling with that. I think part of the commitment has to be, though, to take that money, not roll it into the general fund where it just gets spent, but get put back into infrastructure projects, whether it's bridges, roads, sewage, water. One of the things I hear around the county from communities that either don't have Marcellus Shale or don't have public water, they see some of the economic development go on in the county, and they know without water, without sewage, it's hard to attract any kind of economic development. So the opportunity to take that money and roll it back, I think, is a positive. The con is, I think anytime you put a tax on it, you create some disparity there and some incentive for those drillers to look for another place to do business. There is a lot of shale in the ground, absolutely, but there's a lot of shale. The Marcellus Shale is huge, and it covers a lot of turf. And don't think they don't do some of that calculation. So you run the risk if you overtax, you chase people out of the state. If you don't tax enough, you put a huge burden on your resources there as these companies move in. So I think I would agree a severance tax is probably better way to go, provides a longer term flow of money, and a little more even source of income.
Thank you. The next question will go to Harlan Schober first. What is your view on leasing more county recreational parkland for drilling?
Can you repeat that again, please?
What is your view on leasing more county recreational land like Cross Creek Park for drilling?
Well, you know, there's two sides to every story here. There's a revenue side and economic side, which says basically if you're leasing park property to Marcellus Shale drilling companies, that's going to bring revenue into the county. However, I have in Chartiers Township a small 31 acres of park area, and yes, we have leased that because it's right next to where they're going to be drilling up over the hill, but it's a non-drilling contract. A non-drilling contract says they're going to drill somewhere else, but we're still going to reap the benefit of it over time with the royalties and the upfront money that we receive. Because basically, recreational area is what it is. It's a recreational area. And basically, you do not want to try to get too close to the drilling because we want to keep that as far away from our residents and homes and our people. However, if that can be done, and I think Cross Creek Park is an example, probably 1,000 acres, and there's some wells on it. And basically, if it does not take the master plan away where you can use the usable land for parks and recreation, and you keep a safe area away from it, then it's a blend of the economical along with the environmental. We want to be careful what we do, however, every time we allow that to happen.
Thank you. Diana Irivon.
We have been leasing land at Cross Creek Park for drilling, and we've recently renegotiated a contract to have fewer wells, fewer pads, but more wells drilled to minimize the impact that drilling is having on the park. You know, we take a look at this, we take a look at what's being proposed. We want to balance what we're doing, which will interrupt the park and its use, versus the revenues that can be generated. We don't want to raise your taxes, but there are things that need to be done. There are improvements that we can make. And your county parks are the only thing that every taxpayer can actually use that your money goes for. That's the only real tangible thing everybody can access. So our parks are important to our constituents. So it's a balancing act. I'm in favor, as I've already approved, some drilling in the county, but we have to look at each specific area. We've got Cross Creek 10 Mile, Mingo. We also have property that we own, which the fairgrounds are on and the Trolley Museum are on. But we have to take a look at each proposal that comes before us to decide if that fit will work and if it's a long-term goal that we have for a vision we have for the park that we cannot attain without the revenues that we would receive from the drilling.
Thank you. Bill Northrup.
Well, the reality is the wells are already there and they're already generating income. So from a commissioner's point of view, you say, how do you manage that? And what do you do with the money that flows out of that? And I think you certainly have to protect the environment. The Cross Creek Park, Mingo Creek, those are great resources for the residents of this county to use, not just for the recreation, for the hunters that hunt there. And so you want to make sure that is maintained, and by all means. But I think the second question is, what do you do with the revenue stream that comes from that? If you're going to have that disruption of wells in county parks, there's got to be some benefit. The benefit is clearly financial. So to me, I want to see that money used. I want to see it used for infrastructure. That's a great need in this county. We have a lot of bridges that are in great need of repair, that are weight restricted. That creates even a bigger problem as you put heavy trucks on county roads coming to a small bridge that they can't get over because they're weight restricted. They're either going over it, even though they're not supposed to, or they're going way around it. And so I think to take this opportunity, the lease money won't last forever. The wells do run dry eventually. And so the question is, you don't want to throw it into the flow because then you start getting used to having the money. You want to say, this is a one-time thing. It might last 10 years, might last 20 years, but it will not last forever. It's not permanent. So let's take this money, let's do some things that create some very tangible results for the county, whether it's in bridges or water or sewage.
Thank you. Larry Maggi.
That's a great question. I know last weekend my wife and my granddaughter who's back there, we went to Cross Creek Park and had a great afternoon enjoying the scenery. And there's